But nevertheless, these are models we're going to try to work with, and it's important. So that's one possibility, to take this neo-orthodox form of doing it, rely on, well, God's a great mystery, so the mystery must break into the world from beyond us. That's kind of an option. Another option is more the apologetic forms of theology, which use the method of correlation. That's what Paul Tillich called it, and often it's used in theology even when it's not named anymore. And I think Gordon Kaufman is an interesting example of that, a professor at Harvard University who died a couple of years ago, right? Anyway, he was a very interesting fellow. And he's done a thing a little bit different. And this is where we get into the problem of time. In place of doing the substance stuff, the postmodern problem becomes time. And the problem with human beings are that they are finite. And with finitude comes a status of ignorance. So our problem is ignorance. And that's very much like the Gnostics of the ancient world. Our problem is ignorance before mystery. And Kaufman tries to say there is a singularity in the mystery of the universe. So he has a sort of a quantum-like take on things, in that he says the universe is born. Well, I'm putting words in his mouth a little bit. The universe is born of a singularity, and all elements of the universe participate in the singularity. So there's a mystery that is a singular mystery in which we all participate, but we have trouble realizing it personally because we are in time. We're in limited lifetime. We can't really know what's going on. And so now we say the problem with human beings is finitude. That's our problem. And we have to learn to accept and work with our finite life. Now, watch this. We have to work and accept with our finite life. We cannot appeal to metaphysics to solve the problem. We have to work the problem in and through our life and our lifetime. So this changes theology, and in a lot of Christian theologies are far more related to immanent life, to how we live our life, to the problems of interpretation, without appealing to the metaphysical world of antiquity. So Gordon Kaufman does that. I'll just name a couple of more. Phyllis Tribble was very interesting when she talked about the counter literature of the Bible, focusing on women as these centers of counter literature. But she was doing that in this kind of postmodern way of focusing now on language and on the presentation, the rhetorical presentation of the Bible, as opposed to thinking to any degree that the Bible comes from God. Rather, it rises out of the rhetorical context of antiquity. And so she was able to find these counter themes and highlight them in a feminist theology. Cornel West, Black liberation theology, does something similar. He finds Marxist themes and is not shy to say that. That's why I know it's entirely possible to be here and say some of the things I've said. He likes Karl Marx. And he thinks that it's the rhetoric of Marxism that really feeds Christianity as a liberating power in the world. And he uses that rhetoric. Marcella Althaus-Reid, who was a very interesting person. I don't quite know her biography. I think she came from Peru, but somehow she ended up as a professor of theology in Ireland. And she did queer theology and the queer God. So she identifies God at the edge of economic and sexual marginalization in society, and uses a type of liberation theology to, again, counter these metaphysical structured norms with this immanent presence in life of God, if you like. God outside of the strictly historic heterosexual relationships that we're supposed to have, but that really aren't as stable as we thought they were. All right, so there's different streams. Now, the last one I want to touch on is process theology, if you don't mind me doing that, just very briefly. I still have 10 minutes, so see, I might get through all this, and there might be 30 seconds left for questions. In process theology, you have this rejection of the metaphysical realm and a focus on the becoming, if you like. It's almost a Hegelian, if you know the philosopher Hegel, a modernization of the Hegel's philosophy of becoming, where the universe is becoming constantly. It's always in flux. So now the flux of the universe is where we need to concentrate and not on the solution to the flux, because there's no solution to it. That's what life is. That's what reality is. And in process thought, because you have the universe being sort of being born out of the Big Bang, the explosion, and all particles and matter belong to that original event, every single separate event is kind of like a memory of that originating event. And as a memory of that originating event, it also holds the future of that originating event. So in process thought, the moment is called a concrescence. It's a moment of everything that is coordinating together at this particular spot in relation to everything else that is. So think of it. This is not a meeting in process thought. This is an event, because it belongs to this huge cosmic story. And not only that, this event here holds the memory of everything that has been and that has led up to this event. So it's called concrescence. It's also called apprehension, because it holds that memory. It's complicated stuff, I know, but anyway, it's not as bad as it sounds. Let me just think about it a bit. And then because we hold the prehension of all that is, we prehend everything that is after us. We are influencing the possibility of what can happen as future events in what we do now. So in process thought, here's another way of thinking about God for the future. God is absolute immanence. And God is the becoming of the universe, and in a sense, God becomes through us and our events, but not just us, through the whole cosmos, through every event. I think Whitehead has this great saying, a mountain is an event, trying to show that the natural world is as much a concrescence event as any human being, and has an influence on the cosmos as it becomes, as it prehends and will prehend. So this is a very different kind of theology and a possibility for us. Anyway, I do like Buddhism very much, and what I wanted to end with this is because it sort of indicates the problem that we have to deal with. Praticca samuppada is a word that means dependent co-arising, and it's kind of like a process word. In fact, process theologians like that word a lot, and I like it too. It means that all the world arises together in dependent relation to everything else that is around it. So, of course, we are here having this experience because we are in dependent relationship to the environment that we're in, this building, this location, the culture that's here in California. It's harder to do this in other states, as you might know. That's what I've been told. I didn't start that rumor, I was told it by other people. And certainly the setting here enables this event, but it enables it independent relationship to everything else. So everything arises as relationship. But in Buddhist thinking, and this is now, I think you can relate this to the parables of Jesus, which I'm going to try to do this afternoon. In Buddhist thinking, that means that everything on its own is empty. That there's no such thing as you, because you are a relationship of things. You're a composite relationship of stuff with a conscience, as I am, as everybody is. But if you look deep within ourselves, we find emptiness, nothingness, because there's no single thing that we are. And this by the way, happens to be a liberty in Buddhism and not a condemnation. It's not like it's sad you've lost your true single substantial self. It's a great liberty to be compassionate, to be loving without attachment. There's nothing to attach to because there isn't really a you in the end. There's just a relationship of things. So now if that's taken forward into Christianity a little bit, you can talk about God as the ultimate something who is nothing. That is, in contrast to Plato, God is no substance rather than substance. And in that case, you can deliver God language to this great mystery that cannot be identified or named. In Taoist thinking, the first line, I think, in Lao Tzu's book, the Tao Te Ching, is the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Yes, right. So that's a very interesting point that we can receive into our time. The other one is that when God is understood as an effect of cultural linguistic habit, that also raises a problem because it means that human beings and human histories produce God. So inasmuch as I would love for you to buy the, Embracing the Human Being, Jesus, in fact, really the best book is the Foucault book, Archives in the Event of God, because it is about this language problem, that language is circulating as an expression of power in a given society, and it produces God. So that also has an idea, a sense of God really is nothing, is no name. Okay, now I can do the other book, is no name. And that's where that idea I got in the Embracing the Human Jesus, the anonymous self, the no-name self. So we can talk about the production model in postmodern thought, and we can talk about the mystery model, but I want to do neither of those. I think that, as a good Hegelian, there's two, so there needs to be a third one. And that third one, for me, is the critical imaginary model. And I think that we find that with the historical Jesus and incorporating the historical Jesus into theology today, which I would like to try to do and the God Seminar wants to try to do. And that's really significant because in all the things that I've said, you'll notice that the one thing that's missing is the historical Jesus. He doesn't matter to theology, and that has to start changing, I think, in theology, that this human being does begin to matter again and can change theology and can change its future and might have something of value for the question, the very, very big question, which is the future of religion.